So, welcome to Don't Follow the Shepherd. I have Tali Kentof here with me. She's a functional medicine practitioner, has a really interesting story. She works on issues relevant to cellular aging and helping people increase their health span and their lifespan. And she's going to talk a bit about her journey, what triggered her interest, and how she got to the point of helping herself and ultimately helping other people. So, Tali, you're in Colorado Springs. Tell us a little bit about your background and perhaps your story.
Yeah, well, thank you first for having me. I'm excited to share this information with other people. I am new to this role of having a virtual practice in functional medicine, and um, it's been a wonderful experience so far. I just launched in March, and so I'm seeing clients from all over the United States. I am a former pharmaceutical sales representative. And so a lot of people ask, well, how did you get from being a pharmaceutical sales representative to where you are now? And it has a lot to do with of my personal story of what happened to me. So during the time that I was a pharmaceutical sales representative, and by the way, I thought that I was doing good in the world. I didn't know any different back then. Uh, During that time, my health started to deteriorate, and it was over a period of about 15 to 20 years. So it took most of my adult years, so in my 30s and 40s, that I was very sick, and it progressively got worse and worse. I had over 50 symptoms, and I started to go to doctor. I went to primary care, then, I was referred to different specialists. So I was going to dermatologists for acne, rheumatologists for joint pain. Was losing my hair. I went to endocrinologist. My thyroid suddenly was going, but all in all, I over a 15-year period visited over 20 different doctors and specialists. No one could figure out what was wrong with me. No one could give me a root cause. And my health got to the point where my entire life was impacted. It was difficult to work. It was if I went out with friends, it meant that for 3 or 4 days I was in bed recovering from, expending that energy going out. Now, during that time, I did have breast implants, and I asked many of those doctors, those specialists, could it be my breast implants? And the answer that I got was no. How could these 50 symptoms that you're talking about have anything to do with breast implants, which are FDA approved, safe, and effective? And they asked me, oh, do you have silicone? And I said, no, these are not the silicone implants. I went with the saline. And they're like, oh, well, that's just salt water. It's perfectly safe. Well, 15 years went by. I was on 8 different pharmaceuticals at this point. I had zero quality of life. Even in 2014, I had a meeting with my family, and I said, "There's something so wrong with me, and I have no quality of life." And I talked to them about something that I was researching, that maybe we should take a trip to Europe and look into assisted suicide, end the trip in Sweden, and everyone say goodbye to me, and that would be it. That's how bad that's how sick that I was. And I ended up just not giving up and trying different things, and somehow I got a little bit better enough to function. But it was in 2016 that things again took a really big turn, and I had gone in for my first and last mammogram. I won't do mammograms anymore. That's a whole other story as to the why. But the mammograms, of course, squeezed my breast and my breast implant, and whatever was in my breast implant was then able to come out. And it was after that I could barely stand. I couldn't walk. I had a high fever, and it was like this, of course, the dots were connecting, and this internal voice said to me inside, it's coming from your breast implants. And it was that voice of intuition, or that little, a little voice of God, or my protective, my soul speaking to me saying, you need to get these breast implants removed right away. And I had emergency surgery and had my breast implants removed. And it turns out that they were full of toxic black mold and fungus. And so it was kind of like this aha moment that the 15, 20 years of suffering that I had endured, here was a root cause. And I'd like to share that, share my screen and share what came out of my body, because I think it's important to take a look at that. So, can you see it?
Not yet. I wonder if I have to share it again. No, it looks like you should be able to.
Uh, uh-oh. Let me try again. Okay.
There we go.
So I'm looking at this is I'm working on a webinar right now that I will be launching in a couple months. So this is one of my slides. This is a picture of my breast implants as they were. This is right after they were pulled out of my body. So this is what they look like inside my body coming out.
Now, maybe you can mention for those who don't know, while saline seems like it's a safer bet, it's also a substrate, right, for bacterial and fungal growth. So, or fungal growth in this case. So,
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So of course, we think, and this is what I was told, that saline implants are just salt water. What's interesting though is that the Baxter package insert for the saline says that it's supposed to be stored at 77 degrees. So our bodies are at 98.6 degrees. So, if you're a critical thinker, you kind of have to wonder if these really do stay as pure as they are advertised. I know that even so, you're looking at both implants. It's two different pictures, but showing both. And I have a lot of people who say to me, oh, well, one was contaminated and one wasn't. But both my implants were tested by a lab. And that one that appears to be clear, if you look closely, you can see it's cloudy. It did actually test having a higher amount of mold, fungus, and bacteria than the one that visibly has the dark collection in it. So I wouldn't doubt that there are many more breast implants that have been contaminated, but they come out looking relatively pristine. However, this is one of the many dangers of breast implants. And even if it's saline, just to know that the outer casing of all breast implants is made of silicone. It is not an inert substance, and it does leach into the body over time at 98.6 degrees. These are not lifetime devices. It's said to be recommended that they be removed and replaced every 8 to 10 years. I do want to say, though, that this particular set was about 7 years old.
um, a question I have, how often uh, are there many instances where people don't choose to get them replaced in enough time, or what would be deemed recommended?
Yeah, a lot of women are not told or not given full informed consent when they do get their implants. So I've spoken to women who've been told by their surgeons that these are lifetime devices and that they don't need to be replaced. And I've spoken to women who are symptomatic, who are asking me, could it possibly be from my breast implants? And I share my story with them. And those women, some of those women have had those same breast implants in for 30 years.
Wow.
So,
The symptoms that you presented with were many. You mentioned as many as 50. Some of the notable, what's notable to me, the brain fog, uh, the brain fog, the fatigue, things that things that are symptomatic of many differentials. So people probably thought of fibromyalgia, for example, or many other autoimmune conditions. So very interesting. Um, and not and
yeah, it actually it all links back. The reason why any type of disease state has kind of these vague symptoms where it's like, oh, well, it, conventional medicine doesn't think this way. But at the root of all of this, and what was my issue because of the toxicity from the breast implants, but really is at the root of all illness is mitochondrial dysfunction. And so, when your mitochondria are not able to produce the energy and that our bodies need in order to do all the things that the body does, then yeah, we're going to experience that. And the way that we experience that is very similar. It's going to be brain fog. It's going to be fatigue. It's going to be muscle aches, joint pain, gut issues, hair loss, depression, anxiety, all of these things generally they will link back to an issue with the mitochondria.
do are you targeting women? And I mean, are most of your clients or your anticipated prospective client base going to be people who have um, worked with some toxins in the cosmetic space, or are you looking at a broader range of patients?
Yeah, so the clients that I am seeing clients. So and I believe in testing. So there's no guessing that is involved. And no, I am not limiting myself just to people who have breast implant illness, for example, or who have been exposed to specific toxins that they know of. These are just people who are feeling like they are aging rapidly, men and women, who are generally in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Although I have had a couple consultations with people younger who feel like they are, though, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, who don't know what's going on. They've already gotten the runaround from conventional medicine, and yet they're having these true symptoms where they know that something is wrong. They may have gut issues. They may have just this chronic fatigue that won't go away. They don't have enough energy to make it through the day, or they're not sleeping through the night, or they have brain fog or joint pain, or all these vague, these unexplained symptoms where in conventional medicine, a doctor will likely just write them a prescription or just do some basic conventional blood work, and their blood work comes out normal. The testing that I'm doing, and again, like I'm doing this is for education and informational purposes only. I do not diagnose and treat, but I'm actually teaching people to listen to their bodies, to understand their bodies better so that they know how to take charge of their health. And so with this testing, it's looking at cellular health, and it consists of about 80 biomarkers that are seen in urine. And it's organic acids that are found in urine that are showing how is your mitochondria working? Are your cells experiencing a cell danger response? Are your neurotransmitters out of balance? Do you have gut dysbiosis happening? Have you been exposed to toxins? Are there nutrient deficiencies that are impacting you on the cellular level? So it's very intricate. And then from there, I'm able to help clients to see, well, this might be where the imbalance is, or this might be where the root cause is that is behind a lot of these symptoms that no one can figure out. And then I help them through diet and lifestyle to address these and live a better life and put this behind them and even change their mindset from one of I'm sick to I have the power within me to get better.
Well, I think from your lived experience, it's helpful for your clients to really appreciate that what they've gone through, other people have gone through, because people are inundated with medical information um, on the internet. Some are reading the peer review literature. Some have a grasp of it, some may not, but they're getting information from all over. And then they're going to their primary care physician who may not be offering nothing against them, but they may not be offering a lot in the way of medical education. So I think it's a gap that is really to be able to fill that and serve people in that way is really important because you go to a diagnostician, you get some papers to take home, but then a lot of people are curious, are going to read things online, so you can direct them to better resources. I think it's also interesting whether you go to the Cleveland Clinic or the Mayo Clinic, you'll see functional medicine pages on websites. Certainly, there's a growing interest in helping people with cellular health, if you will, um, and looking at these biomarkers, uh, testing, running assays, looking at different blood panels, all these kinds of things, but a little behind the times, right? Like nutrition has kind of moved to the forefront, but people aren't looking for biomarkers that are indicative of metabolic health, right? So it's just
Right. They're looking at the wrong markers a
well,
lot of times.
yeah.
So even looking at a glucose in conventional medicine, frequently they'll run, your glucose or a hemoglobin A1C. And A1C is better because the glucose is just a snapshot in time. Maybe you had a candy bar earlier and now, but the A1C is the average over 3 months. Better, but really, what people should be asking for if they're looking, if they're trying to see if they have insulin resistance, is they need to be asking for a fasting insulin because that's going to see a problem years before the hemoglobin A1C ticks up or before the glucose ticks up. That's something that really needs to happen if people are going to get their metabolic health intact. But as far as cellular health, conventional medicine isn't looking here at all. I think they will. I think it's trending that it's going to go there, and there's going to be like this aha moment in conventional medicine where it's like, oh, all illness begins at the cellular level. Well, congratulations, you're finally here. But um, this right now, because cellular turnover, cells turn over, we replicate, we have new cells every 3 to 4 months. I have personally seen my clients feeling better and experiencing change in as little as 3 months.
Now, a question I have, I think I saw a clip of you mentioning the number of people getting breast implants, for example, a year, which is like 300,000. What kind of advice would you give to people? I suspect you say don't even touch them. But what's so interesting and perhaps unfortunate is that in this social media era where everybody is looking at social comparison, either subconsciously or consciously, they want to look good, and everything's a bit of a trade-off. How do you kind of reconcile that? I realize you're probably not reaching out to those people who aren't yet, dealing with health issues, but what would your kind of elevator speech be for those folks?
I think it's important. There needs to be a shift in society as far as what we deem as beautiful or what we see as attractive, but also that women, men, everybody, we need a shift in mindset because true health is what's beautiful. And so you can get plastic parts and they will slowly, it's not a matter of will they cause a problem. To me, the way that I see it, it's when will they cause a problem? So when your body, everyone has a different toxic load. Some of us can endure lots and lots of toxins in our bucket. Some of us cannot. There are different gene variances, things like MTHFR, that make a difference in how our bodies process toxins, or, just, luck of the draw. You just might be somebody who has a small bucket. And so the more toxins that you are exposed to, the worse off that you're going to be. And so you don't necessarily know that what your situation is when you put something like this in your body. But number one, you need to get informed consent. You need to really do your research. There are Facebook groups throughout, on social media full of women who have breast implant illness. It's good to know. Second thing is, I would even do a biomarker test, find out, do you have MTHFR? Because if you do have this gene variant, which about 60% of the population does, you're going to have a problem with removing toxins at the cellular level. So I know that's one of the things that I do test for, is I can see if there is a methylation issue. If somebody does not readily remove toxins. But we do need to just shift, our whole society on what we see as beautiful. Is plastic beautiful? Is, getting lips injected with toxic substances, is that beautiful? We need to really ask ourselves, as a society, as a person, to me, I would rather hit optimal health. To me, the idea of optimal health, which is it shifts your entire aura. That when you have something that's blocking your energetic fields, even not on a, toxin level, but we're talking about something that's being put in our body that's blocking your aura, blocking your energetic field. And where is it sitting? On your heart, of all places, like over your heart chakra energetically. Uh, again, we need to ask ourselves what is beautiful, and health being natural, and achieving optimal health so that you literally glow from the inside out and you radiate with health and wellness. That should be the goal. And
Yeah,
so maybe just shifting people's perspective of what we see in society as beautiful.
yeah, it's kind of a great paradox. And I think, as you said, well, I think things are perhaps changing, but living in LA where people are so um, image conscious, some of the healthiest people in terms of metabolic health, for example, are still reliant on some of these external cosmetic devices, if you will, to enhance their beauty. Not all of them, but many of them. And so to me, it's a great paradox because it's not the people who are necessarily the least conscious about image. It's the people who are most conscious, and yet they're kind of a sentinel, right? Because if they're physiologically, we think of them as the healthiest, perhaps. But if they're getting sick, imagine what those people who are already compromised because they're obese, whatever. They're dealing with inflammation or autoimmune conditions. I mean, it's very interesting to me. And again, that's why I kind of go back to social media, which I think is dangerous for young people because they see someone else. It takes one celebrity to look a certain way and create a fad or trend, and then they're all doing it, right? So, and I like how you
I'm
mentioned,
trying to change that. I'm out there trying to change that. I had a choice. I could have had those breast implants replaced and lived with, continued to live with breast implants. But I needed something that shocking to happen to me in order to receive the message, which is that's the message that I received. But I want, I'm setting the example. Not only do I live a health conscious life, but I'm leading by example and teaching people the way. And I'm hoping that, we also change how we perceive age because age isn't how many birthdays that we have, but it is the health of our cells. So you can be in your 50s and still have the body, the energy, the mindset of somebody in their 30s. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that also needs to
I was
change.
mentioning to someone the other day, was actually someone in the spiritual space who I said, chronological and biological health are things to be discerning about. Um, I also was going to say that it sounds like you've been on your own psycho-spiritual journey, if you will, that is really enhancing your ability to cater to clients because you mentioned the heart chakra. Like, I'm much more invested in spiritual health these days than ever. Um, and I think that the territoriality that we used to see between Eastern and Western medicine, that barrier is kind of breaking down a bit. Why aren't we going back to some of the ancient practices? Why aren't those at the forefront? So there's a lot of that really interests me from the perspective of what clinicians and other practitioners can do to kind of break barriers and help people. There's no need for ego. We need to help people, particularly with a health system that is dysfunctional. We've got all the technology, but we're not treating the people. So, um, yeah.
I I think it's important, and I'm a huge fan of Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and how we speak to ourselves, that internal voice. We have to flip that switch. And so, if we want society to change and to perceive one another differently and to perceive us differently, it starts with us. And it's how we speak to ourselves within our head. And so, that's something that I preach, something that I share with clients, and something that I have really put into practice myself. But it's removing the negative thinking. And I recently listened to a podcast that was talking about what has greater impact. Is it just removing negative thoughts or just speaking kindly to yourself? If you had an experiment and you had to pick, like, which one has the greater impact, removing the negative thought or speaking kindly to yourself? And the studies actually show that removing the negative thoughts had the greater impact.
Hmm.
So we have to really change what's in our head. And then, of course, in addition to that, you do need to speak kindly to yourself. But number one, remove the negativity because that's going to be the biggest block as far as achieving wellness. If you say, I can't get better, I am my illness, I own my multiple sclerosis, you love it because it's part of your identity and you're afraid to make the change and make the quantum leap to wellness. If you don't see the possibility and the probability, if you don't have that as a this is going to be my future self, or I am strong, I am capable, I am going to get there, I am well, even if you're not, but you say it like you are, if you can't believe it, then and you're always going to hold on to that negativity and that illness, you'll never get there. And so it's shifting that mindset into I can and I will. And once somebody's in that framework, then anything is possible.
Well, I also think, and you probably will tell me, in fact, I know having spoken to some women about this, the choices you mentioned, I think, was so pivotal and poignant that you could have replaced your implants, but you chose to get rid of them, to cleanse your body, which was probably as spiritual an influence as it was a pathophysiological one, if you will, right? And so people like for me, the positivity of working out all the time raises my mental health, not just because of neuroendocrine factors, but simply because I can reflect on my day and say, wow, I'm taking care of myself. And that puts me in a better mood than I would otherwise because I'm susceptible to feeling bad, any other toxic, speaking of toxins, toxic emotion, right? Shame.
Hmm.
So, um, I think the beauty of you being able to help people, not necessarily tell them what to do, but give them the information about how you feel so much better psychologically, spiritually, physically, um, because you've removed this quote unquote foreign object from your system. So it's a beautiful story.
Thank you. Yeah, in conventional medicine, conventional doctors now have three tools. They have poison or pharmaceuticals, they have surgery, so they'll cut, and then they have burn, which is radiation. And so you're going to get one of these three or all the above, but that's the whole wheelhouse. And what I provide for my clients are tools to take charge of their health so they don't have to rely on those three other tools. These are, tools that many of them are free and many of them are part of connecting with themselves and connecting with nature. Because as we have moved as a society farther and farther away from nature, the sicker that we've gotten. And this isn't woo woo, this is actual science. But right now, we're bombarded by Wi Fi. We live in a hustle bustle world. We don't spend enough time outside. We don't get enough sunlight. We're told to slather our bodies with sunscreen. We're told to avoid the sun, all these things. And yet, when we do get the proper amount of sunlight, when we do eat a proper human diet, when we do take the time to rest, but also are exposed to that hormesis or that little bit of stress that actually is going to make us just a bit stronger every single day, rather than kind of allow ourselves to be too comfortable. Our world has put us in a situation where things are too convenient and too comfortable, and anything that's sold to you for convenience or that is a quick fix, things like injections to make you skinny by tomorrow, or breast implants to make you voluptuous, in an hour right after surgery. Anything like that, you have to just stop and be a critical thinker and say, is this good for me? Because chances are, if it's too convenient, too fast, if it sounds too good to be true, it's not. It's not good for you. It's something that is actually going to take you down. And yet, the tools that I provide my clients are things that they can use throughout their entire life. It puts them in a position of power and empowerment and provides them with confidence that now they know how to take care of themselves. And that's why I named my practice Learn You. It's literally a university to learn you and learn how to take care of you and to be health independent and take charge of yourself and your health for the rest of your life.
Well, thank you so much. I'd love to have you back on to talk about sunscreen in particular. Again, this is combating, this is using one potential toxin to as a preventive health measure, slathering yourself up with sunscreen well, I don't want to get into it now, but it's an dichotomy. And I think having holistic practitioners share their story and share their perspective, um, and bringing additional tools, adjunct therapies, etc., to the table is very helpful. So people can find you at your website or Instagram, or what would you like to share? Feel free.
Yeah, I'm on all the social media circuits. So learn you live better is my handle. It's learn you like the letter U, live better. And then if they're interested in scheduling a consultation, they can find me on my website. And it's www.learnu, learn you like you the letter dot live. So if you learn you, you'll live a much better life.
Well, thank you so much, Tali, for joining us, or joining me on the podcast. Um, I will definitely share this with people, and I do hope to bring you back on because there are a lot of topics if you're interested in sharing that can help people. And also, I think it's important to tease out what someone who's studying something can tell you rather than immersing yourself in what's on the internet and not being sure what to say, whoever that person to facilitate that may be. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I would love to be on again.
you're most welcome. Thank you so much.